to it. Why don't you come up here?
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. All depends when you decide to watch this video. Today I am being here with Shadow and soon Jack. I'm giving him the link out in chat. He really needs to get his own Discord. Just don't give out any national secrets like the other teenager did. Anyways, Omenau and Mark. And today we will be talking about the Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp. We're not going to say which one is better, the Tombstone versus Wyatt Earp. I just wanted to do this one because these bastards made me watch Charles Heston's. Were all 3-hour movies. So I figured to stay on cue of the month, I was going to pick a movie that I could stomach that was 3 hours long, and I do actually like this movie. So is that a mustache?
That is a mustache.
You're too young to have one of those.
It's not quite the cop mustache, but give him time. He'll have a handlebar before you know it. Like next week, he'll be all.
You know,
well, that just means he's going to put the lady on the railroad tracks and twirl it.
Oh,
railroad tracks aren't too far from where we live.
I heard that one time.
So, I picked this movie out. Like I said, it's Wyatt Earp has never been one of my favorite historian cowboys. I think he's an interesting character. I read up on him before, after, and during watching the movie. But my character has always been, I'll tell you later. Now, we're doing this month. This is the second Western movie we're doing this month. Next week, we will be doing Westworld, which is, I believe, Shadow's pick.
I thought that we were going to do
we're doing Magnificent Seven. I'm sorry. Yeah. Magnificent Seven, which is Omenau's pick. But I want to get into this movie. Did everybody watch the movie, or at least, half of the movie? Looking at you, Jack.
I watched the movie, okay?
So you can't get you to read a book, but watch a movie I can get. All right.
I'm not the. I have recommended more books. No one has recommended more books than you and me. All right.
Fair. I feel honored today, so I figured I'd take on the youngest amongst us.
You're just being a big bully.
Hey,
No, we're referring to Jack being picking on you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Perfect timing.
I want to talk about this movie. This movie gave you more support actors and main actors than some of the other movies we've had in the past. I want to talk about. Let's start this off easy. Who was everybody's favorite character? Now I'll start with you.
The problem is to try to separate real life from the background.
I'm saying just the movie. I get where you're going.
No, I know. Part of me, liked what they did with Doc Holliday. I thought he was the more interesting character. I've never been a big Costner fan, so I'm just he picks good films, but he's not an actor I really like. So
unless he directs it.
What's that?
Unless he directs it and is in it.
No, I'm not a huge fan of it. His movies are fine. It's just, but that's why I like the Doc Holliday. I thought that he brought a little bit more fun to it.
Okay, all right. So you like the good old Doc Holliday. What about you, Shadow? I think I know who you liked, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it has to be Doc Holliday. I mean, he was a little. I wasn't going to use that word. I was trying to be.
What did you say, Jack?
I said gay.
He was not gay.
Yeah, there was no happiness.
No, he was not gay, but that's the word he was going to say.
He was just a little too prissy in some respects, but at the same time, when you get to the end of the movie and they say 6 years later he died in Colorado, that means he was 30 years old. He looked older than me. You know what I mean? I was like, I didn't recognize him as Dennis Quaid. He lost so much weight for the part, and must have hid himself away, away from sunlight 99% of the time for 2 years prior to this movie because he was, ghostly white. but everything he said rang true, and he was an ornery cuss. But I have to give it up for Virgil, Michael Madsen. The whole movie, I'm like, who the hell is playing Virgil? I couldn't put a face with the name for Virgil, and I'm like, oh, no wonder. But yeah, two favorite characters, Doc and Virgil, excluding Costner. But you know what? I'm going to disagree with you a little here, Omen. When I was watching the beginning of the movie, the way he played off being the naive youngster, it just totally reversed, go 180 into this bitter, SOB, during the course of the movie. I'm like, I'm gonna give it up for him. He's a much better actor than I normally give him credit for. Although in Silverado, he played the same sort of young, yippee-ki-yay, young kid, gunslinger, which the boys got to watch Silverado. It is a great, Four Musketeers movie, as a Western. But yeah, I'm going to give Costner a little more credit every time I watch one of his movies from now on after seeing this one.
No, I'm not knocking Costner. I just don't really like him as an actor. He does a good job. I just don't really like him. Whatever it is, I don't like his screen presence that much. Is what
Right,
Okay, gotcha.
like Costner, I think he does westerns better than he does anything else.
Could be why he does mostly Westerns.
Yeah.
Dances with Wolves, Silverado, The Postman, and then this one, and possibly others that I have not seen.
Dances with Wolves. There's don't get me wrong, he does the Americana stuff, and I haven't seen him in Yellowstone, but just not my favorite actor for gravitas. I'll say this much is, if you look at the character cast, it was all-star. I mean, it was a who's who. It's like everyone that ever wanted to be in a Western decided to go sign up for this film.
Even the Lawnmower Man. I mean, right?
Which one was
he? Played. I think he played Billy Clanton.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Jeff Fahey. But yeah, ask Jackie, when we were watching the movie, I was just going nuts with all the names that were being shown. Yeah. It was like, holy crap, and you throw Gene Hackman in any movie, I'm there. I'm just like, okay, it's gonna be good because he doesn't pick crap movies or crap roles. And as a father, he was, I'm gonna have to whip you, little boy, or something like that. Like, dang, you should have just done that at the cornfield. Got it over with. Oh, now I'm going to let you think about the whooping that you're going to get, so everybody, I guess, could see him getting a whooping. But, he was another great part in the movie that you can see how his old man, definitely had a big influence on him.
Now, yeah, that's fair. There's a few things in there I want to unpack, but we'll unpack it later. Jack.
Yes.
Who was your guy? Which one of the actors characters did you like?
Well, I liked Ed, and I also liked Morgan. I'm not sure which one I liked better than the other, so I'm gonna put both of them there.
Those are fine picks. Okay. What about you, Mark?
I probably like best the youngest of the Earp brothers. I think it was Morgan, right?
Morgan,
yeah. I just liked him. He wasn't as like didn't have as much to stick up his butt as Wyatt Earp did all the time. He's kind of he's kind of doing his job and kind of enforcing the law, but he wasn't such a hard ass all the time, like constantly, like Wyatt was.
That is more than fair. I'm pretty sure everybody who knows me in this group can pick out who my favorite character was. Doc Holliday. I just like Doc Holliday, and out of the many different versions of Doc Holliday I've seen, this is probably my favorite version. There was a scene where he first meets Wyatt and at the I guess
The
The
barbershop.
saloon? Or what?
saloon.
Yeah.
It seemed to be like a small outpost town of some tent town somewhere.
Yeah, that
And
was a
there's-
barbershop.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, you're right. It was a barbershop, and there's a line he says, and it just kind of reminds me of my mom's brother, my uncle, who was not Georgian at all, but he was Tennessean, and he's like that. I feel that I'll never see my beloved Georgia ever again. It's somewhat how my uncle talks. So it was just that, and my uncle my uncle's my uncle, and I won't say too much about that one. But yeah, I really enjoyed his character. I really enjoyed that role. What else I was gonna say? What was I thinking? All right. Now I'm gonna do a little bit of a weird twist on this. We're actually going to talk about RPGing a little bit. Do you guys think that maybe is there aspects of this movie that you could turn into modules if you really wanted to?
No.
As a module, I don't know. I mean, if you want to get into the politics and stuff where things are ramping up, I think that, when you're talking about with the culmination of the shoot out the OK Corral, I think that that's fine. Part of it, I think the problem, this way I probably have had the problem with the movie, is it was just taking snippets of his life as it was moving through. Yeah, I mean, I see the Boot Hill stuff, but, I'm not as much of but it didn't have a linear storyline, to be fair on this. It was more of a, this was an event that happened, then this is an event that happened, then this is an event that happened, and it didn't have as much coherence as like a lot of the other stuff did. But no, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do for this, but it generally culminates around, do you want to be lawmen in a small town? And I think that you could. I know Shadow loves Boot Hill and stuff. Westerns just were never quite my thing. So it's
That's okay. I don't need any competition with Brian. I told him last night. Weird West is going to be our thing, even though we're going to move on next month to other stuff.
I like the Weird West stuff and things like that. It's just a lot of it is, I just want to say when we're saying modules, I think that there are better movies out there to use it for. This one has kind of the politic aspect that you could use for the OK Corral, but honestly, I think that you'd be better off watching the series Deadwood and working with that. So I think that there are other movies that I would rather use if I was going to do a module.
Let me ask this question another way. Yes, this movie was a linear way, and I wasn't only talking about the gun shooting at the OK Corral. There was, you could turn him bounty hunting, the small aspect of him as a bounty hunter as a module, or him and the Bat brothers, Master brothers, going after buffalo, or there's small aspects of that you could turn into Mark's Christmas special type of RPG. And I mean that as a compliment, Mark. I really do. I don't think.
I guess my point is that there's a lot of ideas in there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't make it into a module just because it doesn't have a linear story per se. That's what I'm really trying to say for that. But no, the West is full of great ideas and stories. I think to be fair on this, and this is where we have different mediums. Most stories are not an ensemble cast. They are really about one particular individual and going from there. That said, if everyone wanted to play brothers, and you want to play outlaws or you want to play lawmen, I think that it would work just fine for that, from that aspect.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure
I'm going to agree. Omen's right. This was, it was called Wyatt Earp, not the Earp brothers. Or if you wanted to, use a bunch of this for a solo game, one-on-one. Or, this is one character and then do this amount of work for the next character and then the next character and then bring them in kind of like Silverado. You'd have to jam pack it and squeeze it into, 4, 5, 6 session zeros for each player. so everybody gets the feel for their character, which is fine. It's not the way it's usually done, but I could see that there are plenty of aspects of this movie that I would definitely steal, or tropes or what have you, and put in a Wild West campaign, which I'll probably end up doing, pretty soon, actually.
All right. Now, Jack, I realize that you DM at all?
No.
How often do you actually play anything other than with your dad?
Rarely.
Okay. Well, I will give you a second, and I'll come a very different variation of this question for you. All right, Mark.
Yeah.
Would you run something like this? I mean, would you turn Wyatt Earp, aspects of Wyatt Earp into a module? Be something you'd be interested in?
I would probably, I would maybe have him be like a part of. I would set it up as a sandbox and Tombstone as the hub, and just do different random encounters and stuff like that, and maybe have him be like the main sheriff in town and stuff like that. But to let a PC or a play, unless you're just doing a solo game, because everybody's gonna obviously probably want to. They'll all be fighting to either play Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday. So, and then if you have a group of 4 or 5 players, then they'll be like, oh, well, you give, why do you get, they'll be complaining they're not
Lead
be
role.
treated equally. But you could set up, I think you could set it up. It'd probably be better off just the setting focus and set Tombstone up as the main town, and then just do random encounters, or you could do stagecoach, caravan protection type things. Stopping a heist on the railroad. Bad guys are coming into town.
Hi, dude.
Trouble getting water in the city. Doing something whatever fun to project to get a new well, or things like that. But it'd probably be better as a setting than to try to play, unless you get all, like, you have 4 players and they all agree they want to play a different Earp brother, and to see what happens, and just roll some random encounters and take it from there.
I'm trying to think of I think it's with good ideas for a lot of this. It's just not as
I wouldn't even say you'd have to play like the Wyatt Earps. You could play whatever makeup character, whatever character you want, and do similar storylines.
Well, I think we're talking about brothers. If you get everyone that buys into it, hey, we're 4 brothers. Our job is to, quote, tame the West. Whatever that means out there. I think that would work just fine. And it's what it reminds me of is more of like a Gunsmoke thing. This is our episodic, one shot for today, and then the next week, it's something new, and I think that works out pretty well for that. But if in the Old West, you have to have a reason that the players would be together, and having everyone as brothers works really well. I think. And I think that's one part to it. But how do I want to put this? If you actually look at the body count of how many people these famous gunslingers kill, they're less than a dozen of actual confirmed kills for like a 20-year time frame. And whenever you play a role-playing game, 12 might be in a single session.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So do you really want to play the realistic version, which is you might die of dysentery and typhoid and sepsis, or did you want to play what I want to call the fantasy romanticized version, which is I think that what we all really want to do when we're playing a Western game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've actually never been in a Western-ish game before, so it would be unique, to say the least. But no, I agree. I think between Hollywood and novels, the more romanticness of the Western has been deeply kicked off more than what it really was. Other than that damn video game where you're going out west and you died of starvation, you died of dysentery.
Are you taking Red Dead Redemption?
No, there was an old computer game.
Oh, okay. I mean, Red Dead Redemption, everyone swears by, except they have to go through like the first 30 plus minutes of the snow scene, you know, the linear part before you actually get the sandbox aspect.
How is the snow part bad though?
The problem is if you have to play it more than once.
Have you never?
You can just create a save file immediately after that.
Have
If you
you
really need
never?
it that much.
Have you never? Yeah, there we go. Oregon Trails. That's the game I was talking about.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, that's that. I will say as much. You know, the typical tropes that we talk about for the Old West. Notice there are no Indians at all in this movie.
There was one.
No, there was an engine.
He got shot at the river.
Yeah, you're right. He was. There was.
But you're right. There were more Chinamen than there were Indians.
Jesus. All right, Jack. The question I have for you: are you still interested in directing and movie making?
In a way, yes.
Now, was there any scenes of this movie that you thought you should have been filmed better or directed better?
Nope.
Oh, well, there's the answer for you, ladies and gentlemen. No.
We had a good time watching it.
It's a good movie. All right. So, was there any scenes of this other than it just was the okay? I'm pretty sure I know everybody's answer to this. Was there any part of the movie that you just wanted to rewatch just to make sure you got every last aspect of it, every last crumb? Go for it.
Go ahead. Sorry, Connor.
Go for it.
The very first fight where he throws the pool ball into the guy's neck.
That was a good one.
And then isn't that the one that he met where right before Doc Holliday? Isn't that the same?
That was the boxers. He saved that boxer's life, and the boxer introduced him to Doc Holliday.
Okay. But yeah. But that was probably the part that I liked the best for that.
Shadow?
Your question was what would I redo, right?
What would what scene of the movie would you want to watch over again? Just that scene, not the entire.
That was a fantastic scene, the pool cue or the pool ball. But to be honest, possibly my favorite scene, besides the black and white photograph, I'm going to go with the train. The train scene. That was I love that whole scene in the in with the smoke from the train at night, all of that. I just that to me that was like the most, not really, but I'm going to use the term nail biting scene of the whole movie. It was just the looking under and above and all that. I would love to game that out. Any Western gunfight that involves a train is just, for me, that's just like the apogee of the Western excitement, especially if that train's hauling ass and you got people crawling on top of it trying to do the shootouts and stuff. I mean, just you throw in a train and I like trains.
Well, steam trains, not diesel, or not I'm sorry, yeah, the diesel electric.
You know what? I like those too. I've been on a lot of trains, and I wanted to say something, Jackie. Speaking of the who was the guy that you said was in this movie, but it was also in Red Dead?
Who?
The guy who got hit, I guess, with the pool ball. Wasn't he like a character?
Oh
in
yeah,
Red Dead?
He was the guy. I thought that guy played the main antagonist in Karate Kid, the instructor. I could be wrong though.
So how about you, Mark?
Scene I'd like to watch again, and possibly a little bit of it I would change, would be the when it went like 7 years later and he was doing he was driving the stagecoach and the bandits were trying to catch him and stuff like that. And what I change about it is I think they put Kevin Costner actually in the role of Wyatt Earp a little too early, because at that point it said 7 years later from when he was a kid. He should have only been in his early to mid 20s at best, I'm guessing. So, and that guy looked like he was maybe at that point, it still kind of looked like he was in his later 30s, pushing 40 to me. So I think they should have had a different character still in that spot too. But I know they had to push Kevin Costner into the movie. But yeah,
That's a good point.
he looked a little too old at that point in his life to me. But yeah, that's the only thing.
I mean, going by
I can let it go.
Going by that argument, everybody's technically too old for their characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Masterson was 25 when he died.
Right.
Yeah, and Pullman was pushing 35. Easy.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not knocking it. It's one of those things that, to be fair, is we live with the mystique of it, not really looking at just how young most of these people were when they passed away. And the fact that Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson lived into their 80s almost, 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And which allowed, not that a lot of these guys lived in a time where we might have a photograph, but we didn't have phonographs, and not nearly as much as, the audio tapes and things like that we did back, at the end of their life. So there was that aspect. And to be fair, because you lived longer, you could tell the story longer, and because you told the story longer, where people want to get onto that stuff, you can really inflate your image in certain ways that you couldn't if you died in like your 20s.
That is very true. All right. Well, I didn't really ask about changing it, but that is a very good point there, Mark. What about? I'll go back to Oma now. Is there any part you would change just a little?
Oh God, the romance crap. That took so long. I would cut like half of it, speed it along. Good God, I don't really care. I understand they do it for the female audiences, but let's move it on. It just was so slow and so awkward with I brought her the flowers and I got married. You know what? Do a voice narration. Let's move on and narrate, and let's move the story along. I mean, that's kind of bad about me, but there's a lot of that in there. I don't care about the women.
It's a 3-hour movie. I mean, it should be expected.
You're talking.
You know what I mean?
Don't even bring up romance or whatever when you're talking to Shadow, right? That's his favorite thing to ever see in a movie.
It's not my favorite thing, but I mean, this movie,
he's lying to you. He'd much rather watch a freaking full-on romance movie than anything else. That's his favorite kind of movie. That's his favorite kind of story.
It has a place. It has a place in a good story. Otherwise,
no, you don't think it has a place. You think it is essential and mandatory.
Shadow, are you a rom-com guy?
I imagine.
I'm really not. I'm really not. But in a good story, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be having this conversation if our parents, didn't, exist and have that romance. And any good story, it's why we're here. Somewhere down the line, all of our parents, as however brief or as long as it was, that's why they, had us. That's the process. And to just throw it out the window, to hurry up and get to the
no, you're missing. You're equating all lack of romance in stories as to throwing it out the window because we don't care. No, every decision is made for a reason. When
most human motivation is based on wanting to,
procreate.
Hook up.
Yes.
I'm well aware of that, but that's not the point.
It's let's be honest, the whole thing with his first wife and going through that, I don't care. Your wife died. Let's move on. I was more interested in the hooker interactions with at the beginning, where he says, "Oh, I have this girl back." That I thought was more interesting because it was very short and didn't feel so simpy. And then the other part was the one between Doc Holliday and his love, where they were fighting. That was more interesting based off of that. But I'm not saying this.
I didn't know about Doc Holliday's first wife, and for me, that actually explained a lot. For me, I can totally understand the losing of a wife.
Yeah.
And how that transformed him, and to like I said, I didn't know about that prior to watching this movie, that was something that happened, and it made him who he was. It really, you can't deny that. That's I mean, all the period of time up until he met Josie explained everything.
Not Doc Holliday. You mean Wyatt Earp?
Yeah. He means Wyatt Earp. Yeah. But I mean, but my point being is, for that, you know what? You could just in voice narration move on. I didn't mind the part with Josie. I didn't mind the part with the hooker. Sometimes the other women folk kind of annoyed me when they're all talking, his brother's wives. Like, you're just annoying little, chatty, Anyway, but it's not that you leave it out, but I just say you just voice narrate it. It's like 30 seconds.
You know what, though? I did anybody else, was I the only one who thought Kathleen O'Hara was like kind of like a weird pick? Because I'll bet you dollars she was she was Kevin's mom from Home Alone, but she was also Virgil's wife. But I bet you money she was like 5 to 10 years older than him, as an actress, than Michael Madsen. She just came across like, what is this, his mother? You know what I mean?
Oh.
It was just like,
well, I don't know what the real life was about it, but did you ever look up Wild Bill Hickok? His wife was 12 years older than he was, and
wow.
And we're talking about even when he died, he was still married to her. I guess he was like, I mean, she was a lot older. It's like not quite as bad as Macron versus his wife, but definitely that kind of vibe there. Sorry.
I just looked it up. They're 3 years apart, Shadow. She's only 3 years older than him.
Oh, okay. I knew she was older, but she just came across as older by much more than that. But thanks for that info. Because I always liked her as an actress. She was incredibly funny. What was she on Second City TV? Isn't that where she got her start?
I think so. Well, I think that she did a good job for that part, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it. It just made the movie that much slower. That's what part of it came down.
Yeah, if you were to cut a lot of that stuff out, it would definitely been a faster, more exciting paced movie. But I don't think that's what they were going for, to be honest.
I know.
What I mean?
That's
what
I want out of a movie.
I know. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to some of the next movies, even more so now. Just because one, they're shorter. Not a jab at you at all, Connell.
Movies.
No.
Back to back.
I was about to hand you a nice big fat compliment. I'm really grateful that you clued us into this movie. I'm not gonna lie. When I was thinking about the movie, I'm like, I bet this movie's gonna bite, and it didn't. I really liked it. You redeemed at least one of your previous picks. I'm not sure which one, but a couple of them were.
You redeemed something.
Hey,
but
that Robin Hood movie was amazing.
I'll let that one slide. It was the other one, Timeline. I think that one. Or
and I almost agreed with you. I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, this is right. I am going to side with Connell on this one. That was a good movie.
I'm going to say this much. It wasn't. I don't think Connell's picked a real stinker. I'll just leave it at that. But to be fair, there are movies that I don't really enjoy that much, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad. And those are two different things. People forget about. Well, you have to like it. Look, I can appreciate films for what they are, even if they aren't my thing. and I know why they put in the romance aspect, because that appeals more to female viewers, and they want to have as broad of an audience as possible. Whereas if otherwise we would, otherwise you're just stuck with what was the classic westerns where women folk are just off to the side and we never see them, and that's why So anyway,
right. Or worse, they're like Sharon Stone's character in what was that movie that was just unbelievable, even though
Quick
Gene
and the
Hackman
Dead?
was in it. Yeah, I watched that movie and I'm like, this is utter bullshit. This kind of thing never happened.
Wait, what movie?
And would have never happened. You'll have to watch that movie later on. She was a lady gunslinger, and I'm just like, you're joking, right?
They did exist, but they were extremely rare. Extremely, extremely rare.
They were rarer than female pirates.
Oh, I could think of 5 female pirates in the history of pirates. But no, I get what you're saying. Anyways, so you would change the romance. Mark would change the age of the character who played Wyatt Earp. What about you, Shadow? What would you change?
I don't know. I really can't think of anything.
Are you happy as is?
Well, I mean, everybody has brought up good points, and other than those things, which didn't actually occur to me while I was watching it, so it wasn't like, oh, this is awful, or I'm not buying this or that. I just wanted to get to the okay. That's what it would be. The OK Corral would have been shot and filmed a little bit differently. I expected a little, it was just like I blinked and it was over. I'm like, that can't
Well, it was
be
30
that.
seconds.
I would have shot, from a different angle, that scene.
I thought they did a pretty good job, but you're right. It was very short, just just like it was in real life.
Yeah. Well, Jackie, and I know you guys have heard me say this before, but never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And this was a perfect opportunity. Everybody watching the movie, whether it was historically or accurate or not, they were expecting something different, I believe, when they were going, okay, Corral's coming up. Jackie can attest. I was like, all right, it's coming up. And then I blink and I'm like, that was it? Seriously? I mean,
they shot the horse.
Even the freaking Star Trek version of the OK Corral was better.
Well, that's what I'm laughing about. They shot the horse. Well, Adam Baldwin, speaking of people in there, I mean, it's like a who's who. If you really look close, you're like, oh, it's this person and this person, this person. Yeah, I mean, all-star cast for everything. It was like everyone that ever wanted to be in the Western decided to be in Wyatt Earp.
I was about to say that, yeah. A very young Alex Baldwin was in this movie.
Adam,
yeah. I don't know. I think he was doing like X-Files at this juncture in his career. All right. So, what would you change there, Jack?
That's not really sure, because I'm okay. Never mind. I was wrong. About that. What would I change? I'm gonna go with nothing. I don't think I would change anything.
Okay, that's a fair answer. That is a very fair answer. I would change the pacing. The problem I have, and I said this before we started, was I like Tombstone. I like the pacing Tombstone more than I like the pacing in this movie. The problem is, at the end of Tombstone, I was wanting more. I wasn't done with the characters quite yet. Yes, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday had a nice send-off, which never happened, whatever. And there's a couple scenes that were better in Tombstone. At the end of Tombstone, I was wanting more. With this movie, it's like, nope, I've had my fill. But I would have...
That's not really a bad thing, is it?
No.
I mean, I get it. If it's good, you want more. Like a good game, you want more. Like every night when we play with Bo, I'm like, what? Oh, we're calling it quits already. Ah, man. But that's a little bit different thing. I actually really was happy, mostly because I learned a lot. I'm a big West guy, and I learned some things from watching this movie that I just didn't know. The whole end scene, on that Alaskan steamship, freaking, I learned a whole bunch of things, from that alone that was, made me happy that I watched this movie and that it had, a really nice, happy ending for a guy who had, been through some absolute shit, in his life, the stress that life must have caused, and yet he lived to a ripe old age, never got even nicked by a bullet, and was still living the life, having the another dream to pursue with someone who stuck with him, knowing that he had nothing and used to have it all, and now well, let's start all over again, and it's a shame they didn't have any kids. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a hell of a family name to be able to sport everywhere you went. Clearly there are other Earps, out there. I think I actually met one, but I don't know that they were actually related. But it was one of the few times that you got a good ending.
All right, I'll give you that. All right. What, in your opinion, makes, in your guys, since we did not Spaceballs, well, I think it's about Spaceballs because it's Mel Brooks. We did Blazing Saddles last week. We did this movie this one this week, and next week we're doing Magnificent Seven next week. What makes so far? And from the point of view, what makes a good Western movie? What dynamic are you looking for? Is it the trials between the good guy and the bad guy? Is it the music? Oh my God, I can't. There's a certain sound I'm looking for music wise in a Western movie. If it's not there, I'm not happy. Or is it what makes a Western movie for you guys? I'll start with you, Omen.
Well, what makes a Western for me? Well, there are a few things. One is the wide open spaces, and I don't care whenever you look at, especially when they do the Montana and things. And having driven through these areas, which are absolutely, I recommend anyone, if you're going to take a road trip across the United States, realize just how big these areas were, and just realizing how big. We're talking in a car going 60 miles an hour. Now imagine you're on a horse and you're going 10 to 20 miles a day. Just on how big the sky is, what they call big sky country. Depending on where you are, you have the mountains, you have the plains, the high plains, the open fields. What I want to almost put this up. It inspires the imagination just from that aspect. Is you feel like you're free from the rest of the world, and then when you do have the world intrude, that there is let's be honest, it's a sense of adventure. You can feel that way. There is no civilization. It's not a safe place to be. It's exciting. It's wondrous. And even, we talk about the horrible things that are going out west. I mean, the not that we see as much of it, but the more modern stuff where they show the buttes and things, that to me just epitomizes that. And then the other aspect of, I also like what I would call the kind of your anti-hero, dark brooding fellow who does the right thing. I mean, we're going to be watching Magnificent Seven, and there's maybe like one or two good guys when you really look at it, and they're against a bunch of bandits. So it also has a series of redemption. You have the ability to redeem yourself of, I'm a bad person, but I can do a couple good things back in life. That for me is that's the romanticism of the Old West for me.
All right. Shadow?
The bad guys.
Bad guys.
The era was so easy to be a bad guy in, and the bad guys make you appreciate the good guy all the more. You know, High Noon's a perfect example. The entire town just says, "You're on your own. Sorry, you know that's your job. You know, good luck." But we're locking our doors and closing the windows and the blinds, and good luck to you. It just makes the hero more heroic. It's one thing when you got like knights, of days of old with their armor and their horse and the best that money could buy, to go off and do this. But all these guys had was, a sharp eye, a quick trigger finger, and lots of practice. And even then, we were watching something the other day, which I got to find out the name of it. And you're remember that thing, Jack, with the guy in all white, the guy who's singing?
Oh,
How could I possibly forget?
And because I can't remember the name of what it was called, but it was just so easy for just about anybody.
Blood. Something.
Anybody and everybody was so corrupt. Men, women, kids, everybody. It was so easy to just not do the right thing all the time, so that when you've got somebody like Wyatt Earp or whoever, the Lone Ranger, whatever, it just makes it seem so much more brave and just more powerful. Whether it's the guy trying to redeem himself, because even then, how easy is it to be, just keep on being a jackass, a bastard. They finally decide, what, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to go out, shooting, when they could just as easily turn tail and run, and no one would ever call them out for it, because throughout the movie there were crap tons of people who just ran and scattered anytime anything messy happened, and then there were the people who stood up and said, no, we're gonna keep you folk safe, because they were the lifeblood of those places. And I didn't know that, Bo, but that doesn't surprise me. And Jackie's gonna hate it, but I mean, that was the way it was. And you could either be making sure nobody got hurt, or you could just mind your own darn business when it came to that. But it was still going to go on, and seeing as how they were the law in many of the places they were at, might as well make sure nobody gets hurt and make a little money doing that. I mean, there were no qualms about the $250 per arrest. I mean, that alone could inspire a man to arrest just about anybody and everybody to get to $250.
I'm going to bring something up for this, which I know they didn't mention it, but the sheriff that hired, I know that Connell and I talked about it, that hired Wyatt Earp for, Dodge City. That was a big man. He was 315 pounds. and there's a few stories with him, and apparently he was well liked. I mean, he lived up into his 70s. But yeah, he lost it before was a Wyatt Earp or before the Mastersons took over. Anyway, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Later he became mayor. But yeah, it's interesting on how these heads butted and everything else. One person would leave and one person would come back. Part of me also wants to say one other thing. Man, I wish that we'd put True Grit on the list. Just the new version, but we'll have to do that next year.
Oh, I'm sure we could find a way to fit that movie into another topic.
Category,
yeah.
You know what? Let's take it 1 month at a time and see what happens. I really appreciate this, but I know that having done this is our second or third time we've done this. It's not going to win any popularity contests with most viewers. They're they'll watch half a dozen westerns in their lifetime, and that's just because that's what's on. Not actively pursuing it, and
I'm doing. I mean, I get that, and I have nothing against the chat, and I do appreciate them showing up. But I'm kind of doing this as what does more for us than it is for the chat. This is a way for 5 guys who live in different places in the world: Illinois, Indiana, California, Texas, and in his dad's basement.
Darn it! He doesn't live there. He lives outside in the doghouse.
Right.
He lives in the house. No.
Yeah.
No. What I meant is, I'm not a huge Western fan, but there are a lot of Western movies I do like, which I think is really interesting about. But some of it is, what we would call the heyday. And I know that Shadow was talking this last night as well. There's a lot of Westerns are relatively easy to make. We still have, especially in the United States, it's very easy to travel to some of these places. You do have to edit a little bit of, which isn't that hard to get rid of telephone lines and a few other things. But we have this still. We still have wide open spaces in many cases. You can rebuild certain things. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, and it is Americana. So that helps. They're a real place where people can go to the actual location still. You don't suddenly get rid of mountains, whether you like it or not. The mountains are still there. It's the buttes are still going to be there. It's I mean, the wind and everything.
You know what?
Else.
The sheer fact that Knott's Berry Farm and Frontier Town still exist here in California, in Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland, which are like 15 minutes away from one another, and people still go there and still enjoy the hell out of those places. It's not like they're thinking about shutting down either thing. They're going to be around forever. And every time I went to like Disneyland, that was one of my favorite places to hang out. Tom Sawyer Island, are you kidding me? Oh my God, the things we got away with doing on that place.
Well, we still have, down here in Texas and, New Mexico and stuff, you still have the old missions. I mean, there's still a lot of places that are out there. And the Old West, whether people realize it or not, and I saw this, and I don't know exactly how true, there were a lot of counties that actually had higher populations 50 or 100 years ago than they do now. And so there's still ghost towns. I mean, we talk Old West is in the 1800s, but in some cases, the 1700s, if you're out west and you're talking about the missionaries and things like the missions, that to me would fit in the Old West. The Old West is I just want to say it's a Southwest feel, or it's the central part between the Rockies, which isn't fair because I know that also extends to California. But you have that desert aspect. It's so iconic. No one's going over to Georgia and talking about the Old West. I mean, we just don't. No one's going to Houston and talking about the Old West just because Houston looks identical to Florida, as far as a lot of things.
I was going to say, though, really quick, there is a small town outside of Hollywood, Florida, that has a very country Western feel to it. It's like they have, the little post that you tie your horses to when you go into the saloon.
Yeah,
they have people still riding horses and tying it to go to a freaking McDonald's. And that just blew my mind. And it's just like, this is Florida, not like Oklahoma or.
So I think I was in downtown Stephenville, and they're going to be using that as a. They're dressing it up so it can be used, I think, for the new Yellowstone project, by my understanding. And True Grit was filmed about an hour south of here, little east of Austin, in a place called Granger, Texas. And what did they do to hide certain things? They like cell phone towers. They built certain things around them that looked like old water towers and things. It's interesting on what's going in there, but yeah, it's the I think there's that aspect to it.
Right.
It's like Bo was saying. It's not that hard. You drive about 30 miles outside of a town, and you can feel like you're in a whole other world. I think that's what people forget about.
All right. Did I ask you, Mark, what makes a Western? We kind of, as we do, ramble.
No, you didn't get to me, but a lot of the same things Omen and Shadow talked about. But I also just want a real strong protagonist antagonist type conflict, and that needs to be resolved. And I usually want to see at least one or two good shootouts in it. That's what makes it Western to me.
What about you, Jack?
I'd say roughly the same thing.
It's the music. It is very much a music. I could do Tombstone in Chicago, Illinois, or any major city. It's the music. It's the music to me that what sells a Western. I know that sounds weird, and I know Shadow's like shaking his head. No.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you. There's a perfect example, Firefly. I know we're going to talk about Firefly a lot over the course of this show, but if you go back and listen to it, between the theme songs, between the band they called Jane, all of the music in there, they went out of their way to really when they weren't in the core worlds scenarios, right. They had that music, and that was a big part of the story. And a big part of any good film is the music department. They have to really sell it with just the music.
I completely agree. I mean, that bird is even agreeing with you. Holy sharp.
As a matter of fact, I want you guys to write this down. I don't know if you can find it, but someone made a Firefly montage with the Eagles song Doolin Dalton. If you've never seen it, write it down, go find it, because it's probably out there somewhere. Incredible. That song should have been in Firefly, but it wasn't, obviously, because it was the Eagles. But that just summed up the West so well, and then you throw Firefly in it, and you're in for a hell of a good 5 minutes.
I'm going to say it's true of any movie. It's great music. I think that's one of the things that a lot of films are ignoring, is where they'll spend $100 million on special effects, but they won't spend a couple of $1 million to get those iconic sounds. I mean, whether the Magnificent Seven, you can just hear it, and that it's the Magnificent Seven. You can hear the music from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Everyone,
thank you. I mean, that's like some of the most iconic. You play the first 3 seconds of that song, and you know exactly where you're at.
There's been a few recent ones I will argue back, saying they had a great soundtrack. The very first Guardians of the Galaxy, there are songs that they have played in that movie that haven't heard radio play since the 70s, and brought it back. You hear certain songs from that movie, and if you see the movie, you're going to think of that movie.
No,
but I mean, they tied it in with the whole cassette, that he carried around with him. That was one of my actual favorite parts of that movie, was that whole idea. I don't know about any of you who made, homemade cassettes, whether it was, taping it off the radio or, dual cassette, tricks and things like that. But, if you don't have good music in a production, you fail miserably.
Well, I'm just referring to, just about any of them. I almost always pick movie scores or video game scores because it reminds me of the movie so much. And that's what it's not just unique to Westerns. The thing with Westerns is, you don't want to get jarred out of it. I don't want to hear rock music if I'm listening to a Western.
Thank you.
There's no electronic. It should sound like it's authentic for the time. And let's be
A
honest.
Knight's Tale.
What's that?
A Knight's Tale.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just
Knight's
lost
Tale
me.
didn't
They lost
bother
me.
me. The Knight's Tale did not bother me as much as it bothered other people. I thought, in the very beginning, where they're at the with the horses, "We Will Rock You," and how they timed it out with the crowd, I thought it was amusing. But that's just me. I'm a little bit more forgiving on nonsense like that than other people might.
But that was supposed to be a comedy, anyways, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
definitely one of the.
you can let it slide, I suppose, if you're throwing that in, especially like if it was a like Mel Brooks type of comedy, then you're already breaking that wall, so you might as well just lean into it as you're going.
It was a Josters. I can't pronounce his name correctly.
Well,
So-
and Bo was right. The score and the soundtrack, it used to mean very similar, but they definitely. The problem I have with it is the soundtrack's what they want to sell for that versus what the music is actually in the movie. But it's the same point of the classic iconic stuff is what is the other one, the Once Upon a Time in the West has a unique. It's one of those that as soon as it's played, just a few chords or whatever, I know what film that's from, and you immediately brings you back to it.
You can't talk movies and music without at least mentioning Star Wars. The Star Wars soundtrack sold probably more records at the time than just about anything you can think of.
Was that William or
John Williams.
William Marshall or something like that?
John Williams.
Well,
Yeah.
Superman. Let's not forget the famous one, which is the Encounters of the Third Kind. You can just hear just a few lines, be like, "Boom! I know what film that's from." That's Conan.
Last of the Mohicans.
Well, I haven't seen Last of the Mohicans, to be fair, so I don't know.
I hate that movie.
Wow.
Fucking hated that movie. I hated that movie. Sorry.
The book is better, but it's
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things that when you start looking at it, it's that you want it to be iconic with the movie, and it stands out by itself. And I was just mentioning that all too often, that's what goes on. I mean, Shadow's waiting for westerns, but we already had one where real life shooting with Alec Baldwin there. So
and he got off.
Yeah, well, of course he did. Everybody knew that was going to happen. It's Hollywood. You can't do that. You can't make somebody like that pay for that. But regular folk who do something less heinous are still in jail to this day.
Well, they're going after the armorer now, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey, look, but yeah, it's but no, the point is there's a Western coming out. I'm like, well, there's one I'm not going to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nope. Just
To me, just music. There was a part of me that when we were talking about doing this in the very beginning, I was joking about doing oh God, Jack probably doesn't know this one. I'd be surprised if you guys, me, you, Mark, and Omenau are roughly, we got some years difference, but we all kind of remember 80s movies. Do you remember Hey, my daughter. Was it the Fievel story where that mouse comes to America?
I
Fievel
have
Goes
never
West.
seen it, but you say, yeah, I know what you're referring to.
Well, they do a Western where he goes out west.
Oh yeah, Fievel Goes West, or I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was actually thinking about putting that on the having us watch that, but I couldn't find a copy of it, so I'm like, eh.
You know, at a certain point, we're going to have to pick cartoon movies that are our favorites that we have to watch.
Yeah. No one picked. I mean, I do not want to cry. I do not want to watch Land Before Time ever again.
Fire and Ice. You're going to have to watch Fire and Ice for mine.
That's fine, but there's only so many times that movie can make me cry in a lifetime before I'm like just done. But anyways, going back to this movie, we all picked our favorite characters. Was there actors that you thought could have done a better role in the roles that they had? A different actor from like something else that can play a better Doc Holliday, a better Wyatt Earp, a better Virgil, Morgan, whatever. I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I actually have that Curly Bill character. I like the actor who played him in Tombstone better than I liked him in Wyatt Earp. Granted, the scene that I like him in was when him and Doc Holliday were having that Latin off in the saloon, which never happened. Never happened. But the guy who played him was actually the guy from Aliens and Terminator and a few other movies. I can't think of his name.
Bill Paxton?
No,
Yeah.
well, he was in those movies too. But no,
Yeah.
Howard
can't
Hughes
think of
was
his
another good actor. But do you think that would there have been different actors that would have been better for these roles? I say Curly Bill from the guy who played him in Tombstone. I'll go with you, Shadow.
Really can't think of anybody, to be honest. For me, it's I haven't seen Tombstone yet, and I would appreciate it in its entirety without trying to compare it to something else. Every single person that was in this movie, with there was only one character I didn't like, but it wasn't the person who played the character. It was the character itself. That's what I'm going by. Is did they play their part well, and were they trying to elicit feelings of like or dislike? Did I like the character because of the actor or actress, or did I hate the character because of the actor or the actress? The idea of comparing it, I would literally have to watch literally every movie with Wyatt Earp in it, and then go, okay, which was my favorite movie overall? And that's I don't have the time for that right now. I'll get there eventually, but this movie was top notch.
Bo got me. Bo corrected me. It was John Ringo, the guy who played John Ringo in Tombstone. Was to me, was the better version. But anyways, he corrected me.
But yeah, no, I wouldn't change anything. Otherwise, you're just liking the other version of the movie or the TV show or whatever better, and that's fine. When all is said and done, I may very well like other versions or other movies better, but just taking this as it was, I'm really glad I got to watch it.
All right, Omino.
Here's the problem that I have to go with is I have to try figuring out who the real person was and backtracking. If there was one, because I don't think that they really did him justice, was because go look at the picture. If you can, kind of I'll have to go find it, but the picture of the guy who hired Wyatt Earp to be his deputy, and in real life, I'll have to go find the picture for it, but that guy was not big enough in the movie. I mean, I was looking
at the real Earp brothers. None of them looked anything like the actors in the movie. They're just like vastly different appearances, and I get that. They're if they did, they'd be finding people that weren't actors and hiring them because of the way they looked, and then trying to teach them how to act.
Well, I think part of what it really comes to it for me was they literally come up there and they're talking to him, and he says, "Well, I'm a big guy," but he wasn't as big as the guy in real life, where you could go, "Oh, okay." I think that would have been better from that perspective, and I'll have to find a picture of it. But that's not knocking the actor. That's knocking whoever was trying to pick the character.
Director.
Yeah, the casting director that's looking for it. And I think that those are the things that I feel that would have made it a little bit more interesting. But to be fair with it, it's like, oh, okay, Bill Pullman, let's go find someone younger. Guess what? Most people who are younger don't have the ability to act. And so now you're in this weird thing of how to go through this.
Right.
Well, it's just like, everyone talks about Wild Bill Hickok. He had red hair, not black hair like a lot of people think. But I think that that's one of the things. And that's nothing against the actor. It's just I think that it would have made it a little bit more humorous or interesting by adding What was the guy that played? Anyone watch Lost and that big fat actor that they had?
Oh, I can't think of his name, but yeah.
He would have been well, and again, he was too. He was much too
He was
young at the time. But
yeah.
that's what you would have had to look for: is someone like that, which is a big fat guy, and that's what we'd have to go through. But I'll find his picture. I'll send it to Kyle. Maybe he can show it up for everyone. But that's not fair to the actor. And the other part is, I don't know how people go off. It's really say, well, I would like this. I didn't like Bill Pullman for this, or I didn't like this for for all I know, that could have been more of how their personalities really were. And I think it's unfair to start comparing one actor versus another unless you look at it as a whole ensemble. Do you want someone like Sam Elliott? Like, if Sam Elliott was in this film, he would have completely dwarfed Costner just by his voice. And that's not what you want for your main character. So be careful on who you bring in for these things.
That's a fair statement. All right. Mark?
I can't think of anybody that changed out in this. Like Omen just briefly mentioned it though. Probably what hurt this movie is Tombstone came out a year before this movie, and everybody in that movie, I can't say for sure everybody, but most everybody, the Earp brothers themselves, and Val Kilmer's portrayal of Doc Holliday, and that just nailed it. And I don't know, that's what maybe that hurt this movie a little bit. I don't know.
Well, didn't Silverado also come out? I mean, we're looking at this time frame. You had, what was it? You had Young Guns 1 and 2, which had come out a few years before. You had Tombstone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. So when did Silverado come out? Didn't Silverado come out before this?
Oh, yeah. Silverado was like, probably like 85, mid 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. Costner was literally a youngster, in the movie. He was the young, kid of the D'Artagnan of the Three Musketeers.
I know, was it? Then you had the Mel Gibson movie Maverick come out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I thought about picking that one, to be honest. There for a hot second, I thought about going that route. But no, you're right. That's just, I don't think it's an unfair question. I just think that there was, as Mark put, there was a lot of westerns that came out at that time, the 90s. I don't know if it's me, but I said this earlier before we start streaming. There were just different actors. I wish I was the casting director or had the ability to put in. I don't know if Sam Elliott would have overshone Costner in this.
I think he
would, but it wouldn't be.
Well, it depends on what part he played. He could have played the dad. But otherwise, unless you're going to swap him for the really old version of Wyatt Earp at the end of the movie, I don't know who he could have played, because he's always been older than most everybody he was in a movie with.
Yeah,
it's like the guy's been old forever. I guess that's what happens. You know what I mean?
Hell, here's a thought: you cast.
He was probably born with the mustache. You know what I mean?
Right.
How about you, Jack? You there?
He gave up on us.
Bunch of old farts talking cowboy movies.
Yeah.
No, he enjoyed.
No, I'm just trying to find a way out.
Trying to find a way what out? See
yes.
How it is.
Yes, you do.
That after okay. I'm trying to find the right way to put this. Going back to the OK Corral, the actual shooting of the the shooting. I know, Shadow. You said you had minor issues with it. You would
He
want
said
to.
it went by too fast, which is dumb because it probably went by long. It took longer than the actual thing.
Your son's really good at taking us all to task.
Yes.
Would you? You completely just stomped on wherever the hell I was just thinking. Hold on.
Oh, I just sent you something for Larry Deeger, who was the guy I was referring to for the sheriff.
Right.
There's a picture of him in there.
Would you want the scene to? I don't know how to put that. Would you want the scene to actually look more like it did in real life, or were you happy with the way that because between every OK Corral movie, Western movies, the area they had their huge shootout always looks different. There's not one movie where that alley looks the same. Would you rather it be more historically accurate, or would you just make a big empty space and have them shoot out there with the fence in the background? How would you want it to be done, Omen?
And this is what it comes down to. If you didn't use real life figures, then I like it to match more real life. But as far as the movie, we want the romanticized aspect. But I think, I like how fast that goes for it. But there's a lot that went into behind the scenes for the whole thing.
Right.
And you really have to, let's be honest. They took little bits and pieces out of his life, showed about 5 minutes of it, and then they advanced a year or two. And so everything feels very disjointed from the perspective of this movie. I like a more realistic aspect from this. If you're going to be doing something about a truly historic figure, if you're going to be doing something from, if you said Louis L'Amour's Wyatt Earp, an imagining, I would be like, oh, okay, that's fine. I know that's not real. But I've known too many people that are, how do I want to put this? They think real life matches whatever they see on Hollywood about real people, rather than going back and saying, okay, let me figure out who this person really is. And I think that that's a disservice, both to history in some cases and to some other things. We can do the romanticized aspect, but like Ben-Hur is fantasy. I mean, well, it's not fantasy, but it's fiction. We know it's fiction, but for this, you're starting to blend the two, and it's very hard to deal with it that way.
All right. You, Shadow? I mean, if you could draw the scene out in the most.
Here's the thing. There's a reason why the shootout, the OK Corral, is so famous, and this scene did not show why it was so famous. There's no, they didn't even call it that. You know what I mean? I could see how if during the court scene, if they had just said that phrase, in Family Guy, oh, they said the title of the movie in the, in the movie, some sort of recognition, because I almost was like, was that it? Or is that coming up? You know what I mean? I kept having this anticipation that we hadn't seen it yet, and that little scene in the alley, I'm like, how did that story become more famous, than the gunfight at Coffeeville or so many other, famous gunfights that are literally less famous?
I think why was it more famous is because it was so controversial, because one side said that they had their hands up when the Wyatt brothers shot him. I mean, there's some things out there that, it really split the town. Even the newspapers were arguing one side versus the other. And I think that was a big. And then the other part is that fight led to Wyatt Earp losing, his brother and things like that. So it wasn't. While we look at the small fight, it actually lasted a long time.
Post-battle, yeah. A good portion of the movie was the after effects of that, but it just even that, you had to really be paying attention to see how it sort of spiraled out from that little incident to all the other things that happened, and connect the dots and go, oh, this is all because of that one little, moment in time. And, all these other things, are, about getting revenge for that incident.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Jack? If you were to to film this movie, how would you have changed it?
There we go. Didn't let me unmute for a second. How would I have changed it? I mean, as I said, I don't think I would have changed much, but I do kind of agree that it felt a little underwhelming. I mean, I don't know, because it's difficult to take a 30-second. I mean, I guess what Omen was saying is the aftermath of it would be something that wouldn't have needed to have been shown in order to show, like, this is it, this is the big moment. But it is difficult to take a 30-second event and make it into this big climactic type thing. That would be difficult unless you just straight up threw realism and threw the historical accuracy out the window, as Shadow said an hour ago or something about a different subject. But if you were to do that and make it this like big grandiose thing, fine, if that's what you're going for. But if you want to stick to what actually happened, you would need to focus a lot more on the aftermath, which they didn't do the best job of. They didn't do the worst job of either, but still.
I mean, we did want a 4-hour film. That's what it comes down to.
True.
Yeah, I'd rather watch a mini series or a TV show if that's the way they're going to go. But I still enjoyed the heck out of it.
All right, Mark.
Shooting this scene differently. I don't know. Other than maybe different angles or right before everything happens, close-ups of each of the guys' opponent's face in it, or I don't know. Probably a lot of people wouldn't be a big fan of it. Maybe some type of split screen of as it's going on, like from a high perspective and then down on the ground. But I don't know if people would like that in the movie too much, a split screen like that, and then
slow motion.
Yeah, or you could do like the whole Matrix type. Yeah. Other than that, but no. I don't know. This movie was trying to keep. I think this movie was trying. I know there's a lot of things they took liberties with, but I think this movie was trying to keep a lot of realism in it. And I looked it up. The shootout lasted 30 seconds, and these guys they were all only about it says they were about 6 feet apart, and 30 shots were fired in that 30 seconds. And then so it's a wonder why more people didn't get. I don't know if a bunch of people got caught in
Saturday evening
crossfire.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, yeah.
They're not enough dead children, and
Chicago, the mayor of Chicago is yet to come out and say the same thing as the mayor of LA says. Do not come. Don't be in LA.
We can't protect you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Detroit said that.
You got to speak there. But then again,
Detroit literally said that the sheriff, not the sheriff, but the police chief said that years ago. We can't protect you. It's like, that's ridiculous. What the hell are you paying for the police
your
for?
job.
Was it me and my family were in Detroit, and we missed a couple house burnings because the neighborhood was cold. So they just burned the abandoned house. And I'm like, damn. But going back to this movie, I don't know if bullet time was. I don't remember. This movie came out way before Matrix did. I do know that. And as you know, Mark and Jack have said multiple times, this movie, that scene right there what 30 seconds. 30 seconds of hell on earth, you know, and they were less than 6 feet apart and over 8. How many shots? 80?
30.
30.
30 were fired.
30. So that's a bullet per second.
And, you know, well, to me, for a lot of it is if you're going to do it, you probably set up multiple cameras from multiple angles and you shoot it literally different angles from every way you can in slow motion so people get that feeling. And I think they did do a little bit of slow motion as well. You know what surprised me? I'm going to bring this up just a little bit just to both. You know what surprised me is that they haven't brought out a Calamity Jane movie. And I don't mean one that's... There's what?
There is a Calamity Jane movie.
No, yeah, but is it a joke or not is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I have no idea. I just know one exists.
Yeah, but I'm saying that for her real life and the way she exaggerated and the way that she dressed as a man, it seems like it would fit all the little check boxes, you know, for what they would do.
There's the thought. There's the thought.
No. If they're realistic
We already had banditas. Come on.
No. I mean,
You know?
we're talking about her. You know, some things they can verify and things, but it seems to make all the check boxes, and yet they won't do it about real life aspects. There, we gotta change it to fit our, you know, not just our agenda. It's just like the thing of you're not gay if you don't agree with us. Like, how can you be any more gay than if you're having sex with men? I mean,
It's not gay unless you do a high five at the end. I don't know.
you have to look at him in the eyes. Anyway,
I don't think that's true.
You know, I want to eat my supper tonight, and I'd have to remember this conversation. You know, it's like 30 minutes away.
So this movie, I don't really have any major questions. I figured we
Least
just
favorite character. Come on, man. We got to hit all the points. Least favorite character.
least favorite character. All right, I'll start with Oma now.
oh God, it's going to be the his second wife.
Oh, the druggie.
Thank you. Yep. Hands down. Maddie was her name, I think.
I don't even remember. It was just you know, yep. She didn't add that much to the movie, and it just felt, I just, you know, I didn't care. So,
All right. I guess you're going to have the same answer there, Shadow.
Yeah. I you know, and I've seen the actress in a bunch of stuff before, and I you know, I have no problems with her as a person. You know, I was alluding to this earlier. You know, if she was trying to make us hate the character, she deserves the Oscar. You know, otherwise, you know, if we were supposed to feel somehow sympathetic, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure, you know, the character of Wyatt Earp made it pretty plain that, you know, he was just settling. You know what I mean? And she would do for the time being, you know, and you know, there was no question as opposed to what, you know, she was, and you know, she just, you know, took too many things for granted, and you know, then just, you know, just went all Shakespearean on us, you know, with the whatever that stuff, laudanum or laudanumide or whatever.
Yeah, that stuff.
Kept trying to drink, you know. It's like, and then pulling a gun on him. That would have been it. I'm pretty sure I would have just shot her. You want out? Okay, boom, you're out. Oh, sorry, my gun misfired.
All right.
How about you, Mark? I see you giggling over there.
No, I guess I just didn't like the you weren't supposed to like him. The Weasley, the other guy lawman in town that was
Mark,
played by Mark Harmon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is amazing considering the parts he's played. And he's
Yeah,
like,
it was surprising he took a part like that. Yeah, you're right.
I actually liked him for that character. I like him as an actor, and I like that he played I've seen him as Gibbs on NCIS now for years until he
Right.
stepped off that show.
Decades almost.
I saw him on there was another show he did, a movie with the Sean Connery back in the day. I thought was awesome. So I mean, I've always enjoyed that actor, but
Didn't he play a serial killer once too?
I haven't seen all his films, but sure, why not? I mean, the guy is a well-rounded actor. I can't see him not doing it. All right, Jack.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with not inclined. I would agree with Shadow and Omen, but she did have one line which was incredibly based, so I'm not saying that. Instead, my answer is probably going to be That's a difficult question because I don't. I guess maybe the same thing that Mark said. That guy was kind of cringe.
All right.
And I'm going to give it up for what's his name, Fahey, the Lawnmower Man, for playing Billy Clanton. He made that character pretty despicable. He just had this, this dirty, greasy sort of, can't wait for him to get his, dose of lead. He did that, really well to make you not want to like that character, but that was the job. So
yeah, I've seen that guy in other movies over the years.
He was a Lawnmower Man.
I've never seen that movie. I know of it.
Oh, really?
I just never seen it. Yeah.
That's a weird movie.
This was not something I was into when it first came out, and I haven't got back to it. I think I've seen the second one with Richard Pierce Brosnan. I think maybe I don't know.
Pierce Brosnan was in the first one.
I have seen it. It was just forever ago.
He played the guy who mowed the lawns, who was mentally challenged, and he did a great job in that. He was almost a charming character at first. You felt sorry for him. You're like, poor guy, and then stuff happens, and
it's just flowers for Algernon and with VR.
Right. That's a good point.
Flowers for
Algernon. Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't read that as a kid?
Oh wow.
I'm pretty sure I did. I'm just not. The name is. Is it
The
guy
kid who's mentally challenged gets treated, and he becomes a genius, and it doesn't turn out well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen that. It was just forever ago. I've seen them. Yeah, I read the book. It was forever ago, though.
Who's dead inside? You don't see that dead?
I think that's you, Mark.
Nah, yeah, it was somebody in the background.
I felt sorry. I felt more sorry for what's her name? His girlfriend, Maddie, than I was actually disliked her, because God, he had to be a difficult guy to be with. I mean, he was just burnt all the way around for a long time, and the only way she could be around him was to drink that medicine. I mean, that's weakness on her part, but at the same time, I did feel sorry for her. I'm not, without me trying to sound like an ass. Who did I not like? What? Who did? Was there anybody I didn't really? Yeah, Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, I didn't like Wyatt Earp, but I don't think that's fair.
You don't think that's fair? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
He was the driving force in ruining the family. Every time
here's the interesting thing. They don't really show it. His brother was a more experienced lawman than he was when they did the Battle at the OK Corral.
Virgil?
I forgot which one it was, but yeah,
Yeah, because Virgil got the higher rank. During that one scene.
he actually had more law experience. So, sometimes when they're using him as the brother that's pushing everything, that may not be entirely true. But you don't want to call it like Virgil Earp. You call it Wyatt Earp. Otherwise, no one comes to the movie.
Wyatt drove his brothers from area to area to find a fortune. If they would have stayed in Dodge City, which what the wives wanted to do, Morgan would probably still be alive. Maybe yes, maybe not. It was their. I can't blame the father because I understand that thought. Family beats everything else.
Especially back then.
Yeah. But when you have one brother that is so driven that he uproots his family not once, but several dozen times, just them to end up in another town to do the same.
But yeah.
Just end up doing the same damn thing. End up in being broke and having a brother die in the end. I'm not saying he was the villain of the movie, but he definitely, in some ways, was not the hero.
Yeah, but we don't know how much of that is, accurate historically. Like Owen said, if you've got a brother who's a higher rank, chances are he's probably pulling more of the strings of what's going on. Like you said, this wasn't Virgil Earp's movie. This was Wyatt Earp's movie, and so you're going to put, especially after 3 hours, you're going to put him. He's going to make some bad decisions. You know what I mean? But you can't really say he made a lot of bad decisions. Are you going to crucify him for like one or two bad decisions in a lifetime of, for the most part, good decisions?
Oh no, he made a lot of bad decisions. I mean, even with his saloon up in what was it, the Yukon? Apparently, he lost a lot of money from that as well. I mean, he was kind of a grifter until the end. Where, to be fair, he lived.
Oh yeah,
his
yeah. I don't really take too much stock as a historical example of anything remotely accurate. Especially when you've got such big names in it. They're gonna write the story they want to produce. Not it wasn't on the History Channel for a reason.
The History Channel can't be trusted
because there were no aliens in it.
Right.
Don't encourage your dad.
I'm not encouraging him. I make fun of him for it every single day.
Hey, no. The History Channel was good when as long as you watched anything that wasn't prime time.
You mean fantastic. Omen, you mean back when it was called the Hitler Channel?
No, I was thinking about when they actually had the Real West and they had like stuff of they actually were doing when they were taking stuff from TL, when they were doing all of the history instead of just saying we're going to make the military channel and then later it was going to be American Pickers only. And what was the other one? And Pawn Stars. I'm like, really? Stop calling yourself the History Channel at this point.
Or Ice Road Truckers, which I actually like that show a lot. I don't know why, but yeah, it's
History
the
Channel
same show.
Lost. History Channel lost. I mean, there's some shows on History Channel I still watch. I won't lie. It's like Curse of Oak Island's got my attention for some odd fucking reason. But other than that, it lost all credibility to me. I'm not saying anybody else on the show, but to me, when they did the mermaid, how the government's been hiding the mermaids.
I'll tell you this much is when they used to have, I mean, we're going completely off the thing, but when they used to have the Monster Quest, the Monster Quest I thought was actually a very well done series. If you watch that. Because they actually did real science on what they found. And they would say, okay, we didn't find any evidence of this. And they did find some of them that were true. Like like people said that there weren't a lot of, which we take for granted now, but at the time they said, pythons haven't really established themselves in Florida. And they proved it did. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. But this was something that a lot of scientists are like, no, they aren't going to stay there very long. And we take it for granted now, but some of the stuff they actually did good work. but it was only a series that was what 5 or 6 episodes. I forgot what it was. Maybe 10 episodes they did, and that was it. The problem I had with this, I wanted to get the. I liked how the Earth was made. They had some really good series. Modern Marvels. They, when I felt like I could actually watch it. But well, it's when they went into reality TV, and when they decided to go into the fantastical stuff, I said, no, I'm out. And that's unfortunate because it's one of those things that I would have loved to have my son watch. I used to sit him down and he would watch Modern Marvels for like hours, which was my way of and I'm like, okay, I don't feel so bad. You're learning something, and I don't have to deal with you for a couple hours. No.
That's messed up, man.
Oh, come on. Would you rather them watch Modern Marvels or cartoons? I mean,
it depends on the cartoon.
I was about to say modern cartoons or cartoons that we grew up on.
Yes.
Yes. That's not an answer.
But back to the back to the movie that we did watch. For the most part, I'm taking everybody enjoyed, at least bits of it. There were parts of it everybody liked.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that. I was really trying to actually pick a good one this month because I've said this multiple times already, and I'll continue saying this until the end of this month, which is tomorrow. Happy birthday there, Shadow. We decided to do Westerns for this next 5 weeks because Shadow up here is a Western guy. He likes Western games and some Western movies as long as the women know their places and guys are, guys and they get to shoot each other. I'm guessing. I could be wrong.
They pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, I think that's the most accurate description of him, just for everything, really.
But with that being said, we're doing Western. Next week we will be doing.
Oh, also, you didn't watch Rick Show?
Rick, no.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, wow. This coming next Sunday, we will be doing, which is funny,
He says that out of love. Otherwise, it would just be Shadow and no sun.
Or I would spell it S-U-N.
Next week we will be doing Omenau's pick, which is
The Magnificent Seven.
Not the remake, but
No,
the
not the
original
1959. It was in 59 or 61.
So we'll be doing that. We'll be talking about that next week. For those who have, I think it's on Amazon Prime. You can find it on there. Oh, and for Shadow's pick, he picked Westworld. Tonight it will be the last night it's on HBO Max if you have it.
Oh man, I got like 20 minutes left of that thing to watch. I better make sure I get it done.
Yeah, it is on
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. I know it's not, the best Western, but I wanted to throw something, just totally, it was like the very first weird West movie of all time, and it did spawn a sequel, which was not anywhere near as good, but worth watching at least once. The ending, was kind of fun as a kid to see the ending. It was kind of a big deal back then, but that's how old I am.
It's medieval world.
Right. I mean, I could have picked a whole lot of other Western movies, and I wish we had the time for all of them. We didn't get a good John Wayne. Arguably, that's debatable if there really was one. And we didn't get in an actual Clint Eastwood movie, which, he just stole that crown off the Duke's head. Just.
Oh, and John Wayne hated Clint Eastwood for westerns. God.
Yeah. And for that reason alone, I as Matt Walsh would say, he's canceled. But I just, there's so many other good westerns out there. For those of you guys who enjoyed watching this one today, just because, April's coming to a close, and even though we're stretching the month out because of timing, go out there and maybe, in the chat somewhere or on Discord. Let us know what your favorite Western is, because if I can scrounge up the extra time, the free time with the little guy, I'm just gonna force feed him all the good Westerns between now and next April.
So Shadow, you got to watch True Grit only because you haven't seen it, and I think you'll really enjoy the remake. Yeah, the one with Jeff Bridges, I think. Yeah, that's an excellent one. I think you'll like that one a lot. And I like
Jackie and I love Jeff Bridges, if only for his part in Iron Man, which was
pretty
he
epic.
never saw The Big Lebowski or anything like that, but for that, that's always going to be have a special place in our memory and hearts. But there's so many good Westerns out there, and there's going to be more. The next couple of years, as the MCU and the whole era of the cape goes down the drain, until some people with actual testosterone in their veins want to actually make a good superhero movie, we're gonna have to go back to the pulps and the Westerns and those kinds of stories if we want something that really gets us excited about sitting in front of a screen that's not our phone or our computer for more than a couple hours. There's just so much good stuff out there.
So you're saying where women weren't men and men were still men.
Right. And
pretty much, yeah.
So anyway,
I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 coming out. I've enjoyed the series.
I've superheroes, like I say for Western, but there's a lot of great Westerns. There's very few superhero films I ever want to watch again. Let's be honest about that. It was never my genre.
That's to each their own when it comes to that kind of madness. I get that.
That said, I've watched almost all of them, but well, let me rephrase that. Most of the ones up until I think I'm still missing Infinity, the end.
But everybody out there has their own thing that they enjoy. With that being said, we're gonna end a little bit early today. Well, not really early, but probably almost on time for us. Shadow, what do you got going on this coming week? Because I know you always got something going on.
Yeah, we're going to start a new month tomorrow, and the next day we were supposed to do a week, a month of giant stompy robots and mechs and all that stuff, and we couldn't get it off the ground because of the little guy's schedule. We're going to try it again with some help from Bo Paints Minis and some other things that we're going to review that we didn't get to review last month, last month, and I don't know if we're going to do a painting video tonight. I've got a game in about 4 hours, and I still got to do dinner and some other things. And the little guy probably needs a break because he's been, Western. He spent the last almost 6 hours of the day after church. Western. So if he needs a break tonight, that's fine. But starting Monday, we're going to be doing all kinds of giant stompy robots, some BattleTech, some cab, maybe some other RPGs and other, mech and that sort of types of role-playing games, board games, war games, whatever you want to call them, for the next month. And then, we'll find something new for, June? Yeah.
All right. Well, if you like anything you heard him say today, we'll be able to find his videos is in the description. What about you, Mark? You got anything going on?
No, not anything really planned. I'm still having a hard time getting my stuff in order to get something done. But doing this has made me want to take a look at my. So maybe I can record something on my what's the DCC Weird Frontiers. Is that what it is, Omen?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a beast of a book.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be able to get through the whole thing or something, but maybe I'll start taking a look at that a little bit. Maybe I could record something for that tonight. But yeah, it's that book's like crazy, like 600 pages or better. I think it's nuts.
And if you get it nowadays off a drive-through RPG, they split it into 2 books because it was so thick.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What's it run
Yeah.
on drive-through?
For the 2 books together, it's $100, and that's
Yeah.
with the PDF. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's pretty standard, so it's not too bad. But I'm kind of kicking myself that I saw it come up, and to be fair, it probably saved me money not to do it. I saw it come up on Goodman Games, and they were trying to get rid of their last stock. They're like, "Hey, we're selling it off. You can get the limited edition for like $85," and I didn't go for it, and now I'm going, oh, that it all sold out. Now you can only get it from drive-through with the physical copies. You know, you get both of them. But I don't know. I was flipping through it.
Yeah, for $100, I gotta love it, and the only way I'll know if I love it is to be able to read it, and I'm not paying for a PDF. And it sounds like it's right up my alley, but damn, $100. I mean, I could do so much more these days
$100
with
for
that.
PDF?
No.
It's $100 for physical copies with the PDF. It's not just the
Oh,
PDF.
okay.
It's
That
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
it's not the money; it's the principle. I know what I can do with $100, and I picked up Amazing Adventures for $15. And what I can do with that game, I could use that game for just about any game I want. You know what I mean? So it's really got to have something, over the top before I'm gonna, drop that kind of money on a game. I mean, I could, if I was careful and patient, I could possibly pick up 5 other games for that kind of money.
Well,
You know?
that's the again, it's not that I think that it's an unreasonable amount for the cost. And I know that the other part is, and I think people forget about this. Ooh, this new game. If you're like me, that kind of enjoys getting new games and stuff, that's one thing. But I'm starting to wait for, like, Free League has their half off sales. I wait till then I spend way too much money anyway. And then I spent the half off on for Black Friday. And that's really about it, unless it's on a Kickstarter that I want. But no, I mean, we'll have to see if we can get you a PDF copy to look at.
Yeah, because I am backing the Razorfist Kickstarter, and that's going to run me $100. But I get, not only do I get the book in hardback, I get the book in softback, I get the PDF, and I get an autographed poster from the man himself and his friend who drew Ghosts of the Badlands. And I've been dying to read something from him because he does phenomenal work, whether it be his videos or his other projects. He's a hell of a narrator. And, I got to see what he really is like when he does something, serious, for the sake of the art, as opposed to, his videos. So, I got to back that, and it's only got a couple of weeks left.
No, I mean, we all have limited budgets, and there's certain things.
It's not about that. It's just,
well,
what am I going to get?
At the end of the day, if you're not playing something for 6 months or longer, it's kind of hard to say, hey, by the way, I want you to go buy this book. If I was going to be playing every week for something, that would be very different, where I really want the books. But, sometimes it's like, well, you know what? This one doesn't grab me. I'm playing in it, but I'm not going to buy it because I really don't care to run it at some point, or I don't enjoy it as much. I will say this much. It kind of feels, I don't know if Mark's looked at it, but the Weird Frontiers kind of has a feel of the DCC meets Jonah Hex feel to it.
I just got a Jonah Hex book yesterday in the mail, and I got a couple more coming. So I'm even thinking about renting the movie just to see, what they do with it. So that's very interesting for me. But there's a couple other Weird West games out there, and I've got to like the mechanics. Like, for example, Deadlands. I was reading it, I'm like, I love this, but I don't really like the mechanics.
That's the other part is really, that's one of those things I think at some point, whenever Bo or Mark or someone can't come to it, we would discuss this of saying, look, we already set that time aside for gaming. Whoever can't make it, because we want to have a group, let's try a couple of other game systems and see how they work and see what we like. And
Right.
not to take over Bo's, but to use it as, I mean, I hate saying it's like I plan my day out on a Friday night, and then I find out, I can't play tonight. That's
Well, I think Bo has one Friday a month that he can't game. So if that's the case, maybe we can talk to him and Kevin, and see what's what, and figure something like that, and play
I
around
like
until
one
we
shots.
find.
I
I'm not a big fan. I'm already in a bunch of them, but to get the feel of a good game, if you can pull it off in a one shot, you might be able to sell a campaign.
Well, for me, I like one shots because I like to test the mechanics and see how the game system works, to give an opinion of it without feeling that I'm committed. That's part of the thing, is I don't want to feel that I'm committed to a game I really don't like. Whereas a one shot, it's like, you know what? If I don't like it, it's a one shot. We're over. We aren't going to do it again. If I do like it, we can play a few more. And then if we really love it, then we can turn it to a full campaign. But you don't feel stuck with it. It's the thing. Because if you commit, you're committed. That's my view. You show up whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And that's otherwise you that's one thing I think a lot of people forget about games, is when you make those commitments, you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting everyone else around you down, unless you're going to leave the game.
It's just like being playing on a team sport.
Yeah.
Once you commit to being on that team, you got to be there for the practices and the games.
Yep.
Otherwise, everybody else suffers. Maybe not a lot, but at least a little, because of your absence.
Yes. Anyway, sorry about that, Connell. I know we just.
I'm seriously been joking about just naming this channel these episodes the ramblings, because that's kind of what we do. I mean,
but, that's fair.
The Ramblers.
Well, I'm pretty sure this combination.
There's a couple of good songs with that word in it I can think of.
Well, I mean, there's a certain combination of people that just kind of results in that. Anyways, doesn't matter what show it's on.
Well, that is true. Well, I mean, if Weird Frontiers, if Mark reads it and I read it, and we kind of like, this is kind of cool, let's try it out. Either we love it or DCC or MCC. And again, if you do it as a filler when everyone else can't make it, then it's not a big deal. You know what? Everyone dies. You didn't put that much effort in the characters in the first place, and they're pretty fast to build anyway. That helps as well. It's a lot harder if it takes 4 hours to make a character and then you die off.
8 for Exalted. Yeah, I'm there with you, man.
I feel so sorry for you for that. I feel so sorry, because Exalted Essence is kind of cool, but you shouldn't be making your own characters for one shots. I will hand you your character and say, let's play. And then you're just like, okay, you tell me the type of character you want, and here's your character. Boom.
I made a really cool character, but I'm gonna do that, with any game. I'm gonna go big or go home. I'll put everything I can into it, and that's the only way to really get it. A real experience from it. You've got to put everything into it. You get what you put into it. You get back sometimes more than you put into it. Sometimes a lot less.
Well, I mean, but if it takes you 10 minutes to make a character, that's one thing. If it takes you hours, here, you tell me the type of character you want, and I will build a character, and then I can build the adventure around it instead of waiting for you all to make it. I mean, it's just easier that way around, I think. But I will say this much. Just for Jack, they have the luchador, or however you pronounce it, in Weird Frontiers, where you're playing the the masked wrestler. They have that in there. It's kind of, yeah. It's kind of tongue in cheek while also having that really dark Cthulhu aspect to it, and Jonah Hexfield. Yeah, it's all over the place.
That's cool.
And they have the gunslinger, and they have a few others. I mean, it would meet everything you ever wanted, and I think Jack would. It even brings in the Mexican aspect for what Jack would want. So.
All right. Well, everybody out there who's been hanging out with us, hope to see you next Sunday while we're reviewing the Magnificent Seven. Once again, not the remake, but the original. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the remake, but we're sticking with old school Western movies.
Before CGI. That's what we're
Right.
doing. Pre-CGI.
So with that being said, you all have a good weekend. And if you don't smoke a cigar, go buy one for someone who does.
Right.
No.
I'm afraid because you're buying a cigar for someone, doesn't that mean that you're expecting a baby?
Hey, children are a blessing, especially when they belong to somebody else.
Yes, well, okay. Well, you know what? That's a great thing about being a grandparent. Not that I'm there yet, but you get all the benefits while you get to return them whenever they're like mouthy and all the other stuff you don't want to have to deal with.
Did you forget to hit the end button?
I'm about to.